Hello to you. Thank you for joining us. This is our New Life series of talks with Dr. Michael Lightman. We can't hear you. Lightman. Hello, everyone. Oren. Hello. Today's show is show number 1234, and the subject of today's show is instability. I read a very interesting article by a researcher called Wolfgang Knoll. He studies ecological systems, and he wrote an article a few days ago saying that the age of stability has come to an end, and the coronavirus is just the beginning. And he explains that up to 10,000 years or so ago, the place where we lived was rather unstable in terms of the climate, but 10,000 years ago, a period of stability began. Now it's coming to an end, and according to his claims, what people did here on Earth, greenhouse gases and so on, bring this age to an end, and the coronavirus is just the beginning. Now, this disturbed me greatly, because if we look at our lives since the coronavirus came, I think instability is the main characteristic, right? We had a known world, a known quantity with its problems and troubles, and you live from day to day, as we say. Suddenly everything became unstable, crashing down in terms of the climate, in terms of the economic situation of nations and individuals, in terms of health, anxiety, and so on. Some instability came in, shaking us around. So my first question to you is, do you think that the world is entering a period of instability, a very rapid change? Is it truly so? Lightman. Undoubtedly, according to the wisdom of Kabbalah, from which I derive everything I say, we are entering a new era, a new age, from the 2000s onwards, which is called the age of the last generation. And this age is one of very intensive development, the development of all of humanity, and mostly intensive development which is not technological or social, as is known to us from previous generations, but rather spiritual development. And we will need to understand, all of us, what this nature in which we are inside the bubble of nature, and we will need to understand what it requires of us, how it changes, how it influences us, pushing us in which directions, what do we need to do in order to protect ourselves, and so on. There are very big, meaningful global questions here, which questions of a sort that did not awaken before, and we have no answers for them from the past. And so we will need to examine what can be done. Owen, can it be said that the era of stability has come to an end? Lightman. Well, of course, previous generations, previous eras weren't very stable either. We're constantly changing. Nature is changing, and we, as a result, also change, but it's not as it is going to be now. Changes now are going to be much more sharp, much more sudden, much more frequent, and they will all be aimed at us, human beings, and they will guide us towards an inner change. We will bring ourselves to a more global, integral form, living in a system, as it is written in the Torah, as one man in one heart. We will need to come closer together. We will need to learn how to live together in a way that's, just being closer together without conflict, without fights. and even to achieve love and connection between us, as the integral nature will demand of us in a systematic way. Oren, nature, the system in which we live, is the nature of that system stability or change, constant change? Lightman, no, the nature of the system, it's neither. It changes according to the need to bring the human to the end of correction, to its desirable final form, where we are all of us, all human beings, are interconnected, connected together in a good way, with a kind of unity of perception and awareness. It's a kind of correction whereby each one helps the other be connected to that integral system. Oren, and what about human nature? Does human nature change, or is it malleable, rather stable? Sorry, Lightman. The nature of man is evil from youth, as it is written. We're all of us egoists. Each one thinks only about his own benefit, and this is rooted in us, this is inherent to us, and we will need either through blows or through through convincing ourselves, through education. We will need to bring ourselves to a state of mutual support, closeness, a mutual embrace of a sort, to a point where we are all in one system as one man and one heart, and we will have connections of love between us, ties of love, which of course sounds very odd, but nature will demand of us to come to such a degree of connection. Oren, so you see a development in human nature. Lightman, of course. Oren, so human nature changes? Is it undergoing constant change, or is there something there which remains stable? Lightman, it changes constantly, without pause, until we get to a state where we are all as one man in one heart. Owen, how is such a change related to human nature? Lightman, the human being person will have to transcend his egoistic nature through which he sees the world, the whole of reality. He will need to rise to a degree where instead of thinking of himself, he thinks of others, because he begins to attain that his well-being depends on others and the connection between them. And only through a very tight, close connection with the whole of humanity can he connect to the upper force, which is called the Creator, whereupon he receives from that upper force all the energies, all the powers he requires in order to continue his existence. Oren, the changes we're undergoing now, the instability rocking the world, is it related to all these inner processes that are supposed to occur in the person? Lightman, sorry again. Owen, the period of instability in which the world is since the coronavirus came into our lives, causing tremors in every human endeavor, that instability, is it related to the inner development that a person has to undergo? Lightman, that's the only reason it exists. And anything existing in nature, from the inanimate degree to the vegetative, animate, and speaking degree, human beings, all these things exist only in order to change human beings, to bring them to a greater state of development, to a state where all human beings decide that, yes, they want to connect as one man in one heart, one soul, and to come to resemble the one upper force. Oh, and if I look at the change that the coronavirus brought to our lives, it's awoke in us a certain survival instinct, something very animalistic. People are very concerned about their health, very concerned about their income, very concerned about having something to feed the children with. I don't see advancement, progress here. I see regression to earlier periods in history where the person didn't know if he'll have food on the table tomorrow, if he'll be healthy tomorrow, and so on. Why do you see this as advancement? Leitman, I see in the revelation of the coronavirus a very positive influence on humanity as a whole. I'm not talking about individual cases of death and so on, which unfortunately that accompanies it, but humanity as a whole got a blow upside the head and it calmed it down. Coronavirus gave humanity a feeling of what it means to be closed in their homes, that there could be such situations where the entire globe, all of its population, all at once will stand or sit in the way that nature dictates they will, and not in a way where people decide on it. Where there's no ruler more capable, more powerful over man than nature itself. And we felt for the first time, perhaps we're not digesting it yet, but we have begun to digest that we are on a round earth. It's a globe. And that we are as one integral system on this earth. Humanity is very interconnected. For the time being, we discover it as being interconnected through, let's say, unpleasant phenomena, bad phenomena, influencing humanity. But nevertheless, we cannot attain it any other way, only through blows, because we, egoists, don't understand any other language. But imagine to yourself, what would happen if nature treated us better? We would become more prideful. And so when such a blow comes, such a collective one, which affects all the 8 billion people together, we see that we are indeed very little, very small, and we know nothing about ourselves. From nature there could come such a virus where we, all of us, all together stand to attention and listen to what needs to happen. And this is very good. It organizes us very, very well. Now the question is, what will we learn from all these phenomena that happen to us? Or perhaps we won't learn anything. I hear that people want to return very quickly to their previous engagements, to return back to industry and everything. I don't think this is wise. We never held a serious discussion, a global, international, serious discussion of what happened, why. We learned the biology of it, medicine, how it affects us, but we're not studying the human element, dictating where it comes to us from, how, why, and how we should respond and understand what the coronavirus gave us. The coronavirus showed us that we are one united integral system. The coronavirus told us of the extent to which we engage in businesses and dealings which are unnecessary. There's no need for them. Where we work only in order to make a profit, and we don't care about how we destroy Earth as a result. Nature in which we all live. Oh, and if you bring up the point of nature, the nature that surrounds us, in which we live, there's a feeling, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a feeling that the pace of the changes is becoming very, very rapid, very quick. If the world behaved more, it was more comfortable in the past. You had positive and negative phenomena, of course, but now there's a feeling that the pace of it has become very, very quick, very rapid changes, which gives us a feeling of instability, everything trembling. Why is the pace growing so quick? Lightman, this is written in the wisdom of Kabbalah, that we are of a generation called the last generation, the corporeal generation that needs to rise, to ascend, and to achieve the feeling that it can understand and see not nature itself, but the forces of nature which operate nature, the natural system. Let's say this coronavirus, where did it come from? How? Why? In terms of biology, we can perhaps learn something, but what are the forces governing it? What are the forces governing us, all of human society? What are the forces which govern our interactions between ourselves and with nature? We don't feel these forces. We are in this network, this web of forces, many, many forces, and we activate them. But what exactly we're activating, that we don't know. So now we're in a period, in an age called the last generation, that meaning the last corporeal generation, where people are as animals. We are like animals, and we need to rise to the first generation, which actually feels the upper forces, works with them together, rises above corporeal earthly life to the upper world, to a higher degree. Owen, as far as you're concerned, do we need to become accustomed to rapid change, constant change, blows from nature, ecology worsening, locusts, and so on, global warming? I'm afraid of even saying these things. Do we need to grow accustomed to very rapid, powerful changes? Lightman, I'm not afraid of it. I'm expecting it. I'm anticipating it, yearning for it. Great changes. But with that, I also wish for us to be worthy of them, ready for them, to accept them with understanding, and for all these events that will come, will be accepted by us in a proper way. Lightman, how can I accept natural disasters in a proper way? If nature brings me good things, I'll be happy and say thanks. But if natural disasters happen, we had the coronavirus now. Plague of locusts is spoken of, fires as we saw in Australia. These are things that cannot be accepted, or perhaps I didn't understand. Lightman, you understood correctly, but I don't mean that these blows will come. I mean that the changes will come, but not in the form of blows and suffering. And that depends on the extent to which we are ready to accept them correctly, properly. The thing is that, all in all, humanity must take on an integral form, like the whole earth, like the entire earth, or similar to earth. And so the connection between us, all of us, as equals, between all human beings, white, black, red, doesn't matter. All of them, everyone, need to connect together equally, as equals. We need to come to a state where each one feels everyone else as those on whom he depends. He depends on 8 billion people. Each one must feel that, So, in order for us not to come to feel it through terrible blows, viruses of various sorts, rather, we can feel it through good, pleasant phenomena. So, let's advance ourselves towards that. We can start through advertising, dissemination, education. Through education, in every single place, we have to disseminate this knowledge regarding the closeness between people and the great need for it. And if we work on that in order to avoid the next blow, we will correct something in humankind, in the human species. Lightman. Oren, regarding stability, what brought us a feeling of stability up to this day, and what can bring us a feeling of stability from now on? Lightman, the feeling of stability and stability in general existed because we were in a state before the last generation, prior to the last generation. And so we advanced to the best of our ability, we changed ourselves, we tried slavery, we tried the capitalistic ideals, communist, fascist. We tried all these ideas on ourselves. We saw that nothing really works. And ultimately, the only outcome is one man ruling over another. Ultimately. And now we're in a new situation where nature doesn't require of us, and also we don't know in what direction to advance. It seems that we've exhausted all the possibilities, everything we could do in human society. You don't have such ideologists popping up now saying, I know what to do with human society. There are none. And what happens is that we need only one thing, to understand that our stability can only come about if we adjust ourselves according to the general system of nature. And nature is such that all of its parts are interconnected, supporting each other. Owen, you said previously that nature wants to teach us that we have to be interconnected in a new way, but that it's worthwhile for this learning to come not through bad phenomena, but through good phenomena. So pleasant. So give me an example of a pleasant phenomena that can strengthen in us the feeling that we're all parts of one human species, one humanity. Can you draw a nice picture for me? Lightman, it's the same as what you want to do with your children when they fight. You want for there to be a good connection between them. So what do you do? Owen, I sit with them, I speak to them. Sometimes I play with them some game. I tell them, let's try to see the good things in each one. I try to somehow calm down the negative feelings of conflict and to awaken a sensation of warmth and closeness. Lightman will do that with the entirety of humanity. What you want the same result. Oh, and so I understand. So nature is preparing a series of blows, punishments for us. Coronavirus, global warming, fires. If we want to feel that we're all connected together as one human body, is that something that human beings themselves have to do? Lightman, of course. In nature, there are many forces, good, bad forces, but what you take from those forces, that's up to you. Awaken such forces of connection and closeness in humanity, and then you will get the appropriate result. Please, go ahead. Oh, and when you explain it, it seems like our life is a reality show where everything that happens, it's as if there's this director, the big brother, they're planning out things which have to bring us to this main scene, Lightman, correct. Owen, and these blows, coronavirus and everything, Lightman, from that same director called nature. Owen, and is it correct to relate to it that way, or is it childish? Lightman, why childish? Who else do you have governing your life? You, yourself? Owen, I don't know. Lightman, what do you mean you don't know? I promise you then. Do you know what will happen in a moment's time, tomorrow? Owen, no. Lightman, nothing, you see, so what can you talk about? You see how the leaders of the world also don't understand what's happening each time they have to recalculate their course and so on. Owen, so in reality, as you explained, we've begun to return back to our routines in Israel and all over the world. How to make sure that we don't become complacent? Because our life change, instability, more and more blows come, nature is changing it could be that from these many blows we will come to think that, okay, nature has gone crazy, I can't do anything, I go into autopilot and I just become indifferent from it. Lightman, try that. Oh, and no, I'm saying it's from distress. The person doesn't know how to contend with it. So what can we do in the case that humanity enters a state of apathy? Whatever it will be, will be. Lightman, what apathy? You are the will to enjoy, the will to receive, or at least to fear punishment. And you cannot remain indifferent. To the moment you die, you don't want to receive any blow, even a tiny one, and you always want to receive something good. So there's nothing to speak of here. We're very small, we're very gentle, very sensitive, we're frightful, easily frightened. Who are we? You can see now in the face of coronavirus. And so nature teaches us that we have to consider our future and not to say, whatever will be, will be. I cannot say that. It's impossible for me. Only if I'm already dead. Then the dead are free, as it is written. Owen. So, look, Lightman, I'm very sorry to say our time has ended, but the age of instability, how do you summarize it? Lightman, it began towards the 20th century, and it will not stop until all of us, all of humanity, connect together and we rise to a higher degree of nature from the degree of the animate, the animal, because we egoists are still regarded as animals. And we need to rise to a higher degree called the degree of Adam, human, speaking. Oh, and what is there in terms of quality? Lightman, eternality, wholeness, perfection in terms of our existence. Oh, and does that depend on the connection between people? Lightman, that depends only on the connection between people, and nature will bring it about in a good way or a bad way. That depends on us. That choice is up to us. Oh, and the choice is in our hands. Thank you very much, Lightman. Thank you very much, all of you, for being with us. New life, learning to live well. Thank you and goodbye.